It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. The show's already started. Don't know where you folks have been. Gary, how are you?
Wow. So much to talk about. We'll get to the Fauci stuff here in a little bit. Fauci, the Democrats wanting to... the Wall Street Journal editorial.
Yeah.
Schumer and the Democrats wish to prosecute the oil CEOs, and natural gas CEOs.
Right.
There's no alleged crime.
Right.
They're doing the exact same thing. They're basically running, stating... we want to prosecute the CEOs. There is no alleged. Well, they're alleging collusion and price fixing.
Right.
There's no evidence at all. No. They're just throwing it out.
Don't need any.
And
these days, you don't need anything.
Yeah, we'll get to that coming up because it's just like, what? Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then the whole
and go for the big banks next, and then who else you going to go for? Go for the grocery stores. You know, because Biden was on. These retailers are. It's not inflation. It's the retailers that are gouging. Just go after everybody.
Well, here's if you can go after. Here's a novel idea. If the Democrats wish to go after businesses for charging prices that they disagree with, then should we go after the politicians who are the cause, the Democrats who are the cause and wish to continue the spending and the borrowing, which is the major driver of the increase in prices? If you're going to arrest the CEOs, do you arrest Biden?
Yes, and his party. Everybody who's responsible. Get in line. Let's go. We don't have enough handcuffs. Get some zip ties.
My favorite story of the day, though, and we came up with a headline, the Washington Post dies in the nonprofit darkness. Oh, man. Just looking
you wrote that in the pre-show meeting, and I had to laugh out loud.
Washington Post boss sounds alarm over dwindling audience in heated staff meeting.
Yeah. People
are not reading your stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Are they just now getting that? They're just now getting that? I mean, we've been asking the question. You look at like CNN. MSNBC they're still above water, I think. I think they're still doing okay. It looks like all the liberals have kind of migrated over to MSNBC, right?
Yeah.
And CNN...
Well, they're giving away. Well, what they say is watch MSNBC and you don't have to do acid.
Exactly.
That's the new thing.
There's a benefit. It saves you money on your acid bill.
Right, exactly. LSD isn't needed if you're watching MSNBC.
Your hallucinogenic budget will drop dramatically. You won't have to spend nearly.
Lean forward so far you fall down in your delusional acid trip.
Lean forward. Oh my gosh.
Remember that?
Hey, we're going to go with that. What? Lean forward. What does it mean? We don't know. We don't even know. We're just going to go with it. What do you mean go with it? I don't even know what go with it means.
How long
We're
did
just
that
going to
last?
put it on the I don't know. It seemed like way too long. A year, maybe? I think. Yeah. Lean forward. MSNBC. Lean forward. What? What are we doing now? Am I in a doctor's office? This is not what I want.
I got one
from news channels.
I've got one. We're Red Eye Radio. Stand up straight.
Yes.
Get a damn job.
That's right. Tuck your shirt in. Wash your hands. What's wrong with you?
Pull your damn pants up.
Red Eye Radio. What's wrong with you?
Pull your damn pants up. We're Red Eye Radio.
Get a belt. Clean those shoes. Did you even try combing your hair? For the station that cares.
And then we may get to the story later on, the Idaho bar that the heterosexual Pride Month or heterosexual Awesomeness Month. Now, I would talk about that, the whole thing about the heterosexual pride, except for the fact that I really don't have much to be proud of in that area at all.
It's
I
not
wish
going well.
Yeah, not going well. I
don't have anything to put on my poster. All right, before we start the march, is everybody ready? Gary, you look confused. I don't have anything to put on my poster.
It'd be blank. Oh man!
Yeah.
So we've got very quickly here.
Yeah.
What do we call it when we hit 1,000 topics in a show?
Oh my gosh! All over the place Tuesday.
Potpourri Tuesday.
Potpourri Tuesday.
But the Fauci thing, in fact, there's a great analysis of it that we'll have coming up. And we'll break it into segments because Michael Schellenberger actually broke it down and did it, not in any type of, screaming way.
Right,
The one thing, initially, I'm not a fan of the style of MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm just not.
Right.
But I will say this, because she caught me completely. I was not expecting it. It's like, okay, she's bashing. What's she going to hit Fauci on? And it was on the testing of animals and the dogs. And I went, well, that is not. Oh, wait a minute. Dogs. Oh, yeah. Okay. That may be a good political move.
Yeah. Right. She may be onto something.
Maybe. And I will say that when she was you saw the interview that she was doing with the reporter.
Yeah.
When she's doing, they basically, because Raskin's saying you worship Trump and you're attacking Fauci, and she goes, we don't worship Trump. You people and effing worship George Floyd, and it was like, woo. And it was. But I'll tell you what I got out of yesterday is the Republicans were asking real good questions. I'm sure, like anything, they wanted to get some viral moments out there. But when you get to the actual substance, or when you get to the substance of both sides, the Democrats are basically, Fauci was great. There was no problem during COVID.
Yeah,
everything
right.
is fine. And I'm thinking to myself, you can't win that argument with the American public.
No.
You can't sit there and give this adulation to him because, and Michael Schellenberger actually and others tore it apart and went, people forget, like at the end of 2021 going into 2022, he was saying that there should be a call to, basically, mask everybody permanently, like on places like airplanes.
Right.
They forget about it. And Fauci was basically out there, well, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this. Well, you have to put everything into context, and things were fluid and all this. And it's like, nah, you can't.
No.
You can't make that case. But it was really interesting because the Democrats were like, you people, this is a great man up here, and you people worship Trump. And it's like, you worship the felon. What did I see yesterday? Who had the thing? Was it Babylon Bee? That had this election is between a convicted felon and an unconvicted felon.
That's true.
So I was like, oh my God,
That's beautiful.
But it was really interesting. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but the parts that I did watch, and I tried to go back and watch as much as I could late yesterday afternoon. I realized that there is an expectation, that the people, in order to be able to do this show, you basically have to be up 24 hours because no matter when, it's like,
no, it's true.
Just can't do it. There's things I got to do during the day. I feel guilty. It's like I should have sat down and watched the entire, how many hours it was.
Right.
And it's like, well, if I was working during the day and I was on the air, I could have it there in the background as it's actually playing.
Right.
And play audio cuts of it. But I keep forgetting we work overnights. And you actually have a life, and I'm trying to have some kind of a life. And so it's
Yeah, no, it's
and get in 2 sleep
I
shifts.
was thinking the exact same thing. I actually fell asleep watching it, and then I woke up, and there's Fauci talking, and I'm thinking to myself, did I fall asleep watching Golden Girls? I don't want to. I'm not trying to bash his looks. I'm just saying he kind of resembles one of them. And I'm like, where's the? Oh, that's the testimony.
But it's really it's fascinating. But I was just the side that Democrats are taking, and this gets us to the issue we wanted to start out with today, and that's because illegal immigration and everything has been going on, and now Biden is going to sign an executive order tomorrow to limit legal border crossings to 4,000 a day, and then he's going to shut down the border. Which means he's admitting he always had the power to shut down the border.
There's no way around that. And we were waiting for it. We kind of, the word had gotten out that something was, they were going to float something, they were going to do something. And there's the thought that, okay, he is, because he's been saying all this time, well, I don't have any power. If only Congress would help me. If only Congress would help me. And boom. Look, he's had the power all along. Right. Everybody knows he's had the power. He was lying about it.
I mean, as we have said, he has been lying consistently about it. Mayorkas has been lying about it on a consistent. And there you go. And you know how you know it's bad? That you've got Tester and some of the other senators that aren't going to show up for it tomorrow.
Right.
They don't want to show up for it because they look at it and they go, 4,000 a day. I want to go back here and play this. This is a former head of Homeland Security. Oops, I just lost it. Oh no, there it is. Excuse me, a former. Hang on here. Don't put up the volume yet. Okay, you can put it up now. Sorry, I was former Obama Department of Homeland Security Secretary Johnson, and this is what he said. Going back a couple of years ago, March of 2019, of when in the Obama administration they knew illegal immigration was out of control. What was the figure? Here we go.
My staff will tell you if it was under 1,000 apprehensions the day before, that was a relatively good number. And if it was above 1,000, it was a relatively bad number, and I was going to be in a bad mood the whole day. On Tuesday, there were 4,000 apprehensions. I know that 1,000 overwhelms the system. I cannot begin to imagine what 4,000 a day looks like. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Obama Department of Homeland Security Secretary. And so Biden will sign an executive order, from what we know, to limit illegal border crossings to 4,000 a day, and then he'll shut it down. And he views that as a success, that, okay, now I'm going to be able to go to the American public. By the way, that's 1.4 million people a year, not counting gotaways.
Right.
But the fact is, he's telling the American public, I've always had the power to shut down the border.
Right.
And I just haven't done it. And every Democrat knows it. Every Democrat listening right now knows that Biden and Mayorkas has been consistently lying about the border because they want an open border.
Yeah.
And now that election is coming, he's trying to pretend, as we've talked about Democrats now attempting to move to the center. Now the center for Democrats has moved way far to the left over the last 20 years. And now the center for the Democrats on the border is allowing 1.4 million people into the country a year.
Yeah. Yep. And it's, of course, too little too late after he caused the entire thing.
Exactly.
This is nothing but a show.
And he caused it.
Yep.
Said he could do nothing about it for over, let me see. Okay. For a year and 3 years and 4 months?
Yeah.
Said he could do nothing about it.
Right.
It's beyond his control. It was all Trump's fault.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like that,
he can do something about it.
Oh, we're going to allow 4,000 in per day, and then we shut it down. We will shut down the border because I've always had the executive power to do it. Think about this. He lied just the last couple of days, lying about Israel.
Yeah.
And that just was, by the way, the State Department admitted, well, yeah, the president's plan is very close to Hamas's plan. It's just like,
No, the president's plan is Hamas's plan.
I mean, it's freaking unbelievable. He lied about that, saying basically it's the Israeli plan. Israel's like, what the hell are you talking about? This isn't our plan.
This is a million times worse than the whole Baghdad Bob thing. You know, this is basically Hamas is writing the press releases and writing the deals, and the administration is presenting them to the Western world. That's what's going on. They're taking Hamas's propaganda and feeding it to the rest of the world, and the liberal media doing the same thing. Washington Post, you want to know why no one's reading your paper, your publication? This is why, because we see right through it. We know what's going on.
I did love in that story, though, Ben, we're just jumping from story to story, but we believe our listeners are intelligent enough to follow us.
They are.
At times I can't follow myself.
I can't keep up with
it. But I was thinking that the reporters like we need more diversity. We need more diversity. Well, how about more pro Hamas?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
pro terrorist.
Right.
Are you hating Jews enough?
Right.
Washington Post.
That's the question.
You need more diversity.
Right. Exactly.
More genocide talk.
More ways to hate.
Yep.
You know, they started creating more victims, and now they're creating more ways to hate.
We've got a show today.
I think we do.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Every driver knows the cost of replacing tires is a major expense. What if you could save on tire costs without sacrificing performance or safety? Consider retreads, a sustainable, cost-effective way to rack up your miles. Retreads have a reputation for causing that rubber debris or gators found on the sides of the highway. However, studies show that 68% of the tire debris collected on the highway comes from new tires, not retreads. The reality is that retreads will wear at the same rate as new tires if you don't properly maintain them. Retreads are still a major investment and require engaged maintenance practices.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. You see that Trump's haul for May, like $141 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty massive. And you look at the PACs are probably bringing in tons right now. It is going to be massive. You know, you and I have often looked at over the years the money and the money thing, and we have said, and it's true, that you can have the most money and still not win. The message, what you do with that money, the message is what counts. I think the message is in Trump's favor, clearly. But I think it's also something right now where you see the massive increase in the grassroots money that's coming in. The grassroots money has been with Trump from the beginning, but you saw it last Thursday just go through the roof after the verdict, and that's the message there. You don't have to spend a dime of that money to know that those are people, many of whom have never given any money politically. And so now you look at it and see where the sentiment is, and you see at least right now what people are which direction they're motivated. And it's going to be interesting to watch and see how that plays out over the summer.
Coming up, we'll have the column that Douglas Schoen, who a couple weeks ago was talking about the fact that the Biden campaign needs to be more MAGA.
Yeah.
And what
Right.
he's saying now about talking about the conviction.
Yeah.
All coming up.
about to trigger somebody right now. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
All right. Heterosexual pride. Okay. Since Big Deep Voice Guy said I got to trigger somebody, just throw that one out.
Well, or the new president of Mexico is Jewish.
The protests, the Democrats start the protests tomorrow.
What are all these radicals going to do now?
we need to move our embassy out of Mexico now.
Right. You're going to start protesting Mexico. Are they going to call to shut down the border? Build a wall? What's going to happen?
That's why Biden's shutting down the border.
Now we know.
Now we know they're shutting down the border. Mexico has the first Jewish president. It's time to shut down the Mexican border.
It happened right within days. You can't deny that.
The day after.
Yeah. I can't shut the border down. Mexico elects their first Jewish president. I'm shutting the border down. We're building a wall. The greatest wall of all time.
Bigger than Trump's wall.
Bigger than Trump's wall. It's going to go to space. The wall. It's going to be tall. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's funny.
I was waiting for it when the election results came down. I was like, it won't be about the first woman elected president of Mexico. It will be about her being Jewish. I did see a couple of headlines, stories that that didn't focus on that, but mentioned it.
Okay.
Others didn't mention it.
All right, you're ahead of the Babylon Bee. I went to see, do they have a headline on that one?
Wait for it.
I am reading a couple of their headlines. After seeing how much money Trump raised, Biden calls up D.A. Bragg to ask if he can get charged with a felony or two.
Yeah, exactly.
No foul called after Caitlin Clark crushed by anvil.
Yeah.
My God.
That's funny.
Oh man, oh man, oh man! I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But it was with Biden today. Later on today, I think I said tomorrow. Today, sorry. Tomorrow is today now.
It all runs together.
Yes. With him, calling the press conference is big. Big story. We're going to limit the border to 4,000 a day. And I'm like, wow. You had some of the senators now that they don't want to be seen with Biden. And, boy, he's going to be mocked. And Republicans are going to be pounding that Jay Johnson audio cut over and over and over again. Biden is saying, I'm going to close the border down when 1.4 million come in. I would have an ad ready tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh,
I'd be with $141 million.
Oh, yeah.
Start running the ads.
Yep.
Biden pretending to close the border.
Right. And he's really doing nothing.
Right. Allowing 4,000. Then he says he has the ability to shut down the border, which means he has the ability to shut it down at zero. Why won't he do it?
Right.
It's really amazing how they're trying to, whether it was, with Israel or here, okay, let's try to ride the tightrope here. Let's convince people we're trying to do something. The interesting thing is, when you talk about, when we talk about what the election's going to be about, you and I were talking the other day, how much will the Democrats use that? We mentioned that over the last year, you haven't heard Democrats don't use it all. Biden or Trump, the twice impeached president, how could you possibly vote for him? It doesn't work. And you and I asked the question, will the bogus conviction of Trump, will it stick? Reading here from Douglas Schoen, who is a Democratic pollster and a Democrat, who a couple of weeks ago wrote a column saying that Biden has to be more MAGA. I think it was Douglas Schoen who said, they got to talk about building a wall or something at the border. So now Biden's coming out, tomorrow and saying, okay, we're going to Only allow 4,000 to cross the border, then we shut it down. And he writes here, former president and current Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and the conviction on 34 felony charges is truly unprecedented. But when voters go to the ballot box in November, what will matter is not whether or not Trump falsified business records, whether it is the issue, specifically inflation, the economy, and immigration, that will matter. Put it another way, it's the issues, stupid. As such, if Trump wants to continue leading Biden, the former president would be wise to avoid the trap of focusing on his conviction, including refraining from blasting it as rigged. I would disagree with that, by the way. I think it's now different. This is where Douglas Schoen reads it wrong. It's different, not the entire speech, but to sit there and talk about the fact that, that the system is rigged and this election is rigged based on what's going on right now is a totally solid point that a lot of people agree with. Even you have never Trumpers now questioning whether it's time to come back and support Trump because what's going on here is just completely and totally unacceptable.
Right.
It's different Trump using it than Biden using it. He said, but instead he should talk specifically about his policies to strengthen the economy, reduce the cost of living, and close the southern border. By the way, he's been doing that. He's been talking about his situation, and then he has been doing in-depth interviews about the things that he would do, in order to solve the problems of the southern border, strengthen the economy, reduce the cost of living. He's talked all about those. And you can't sit there and say, well, you guys are just going along with it, because we've always criticized Trump for not focusing correctly in a campaign speech.
Right.
And so he has been, we've talked about the last month or two, he's been focused, and he's very laser focused. But I disagree. Trump should bring it up because it's something that everybody's talking about. And that obviously if you explain what's going on, most people will go, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
That's just wrong what's going on. But for his part, if he wants to win in November, Biden should also stay away from Trump's conviction and the threat Trump poses to democracy. That's the only thing they've got.
They just keep repeating it.
The president must remain on topic and remind voters what he has done for the economy and explain his own plans to defeat inflation and manage the border. In this light, the decision by the Biden-Harris campaign to host a press conference outside Trump's trial looks even more bizarre. It gave the impression that Biden is trying to weaponize the conviction to avoid having to talk about the issues, as Biden has long struggled to communicate his achievements. That's because he doesn't have any. Quite simply, despite Democrats' efforts to demonize Trump, and regardless of the outsized media attention on the conviction, polls have consistently showed what the voters are actually concerned about is the economy and inflation, followed by immigration. Indeed, inflation, 35%, immigration, 32%, and the economy, 23%, were the three most important issues voters felt they are facing, that are facing the country, per recent Harvard-Harris polling. Conversely, what happened on January 6th, only 4%, it was second to last of the issues that Americans were concerned about. Mm-hmm. And like I said, as we said, Trump can make the case. The case can be made now, and Republicans are making it, that the threat to democracy is what's going on right now with Trump. So I would disagree with Douglas Schoen. Not that it's the only message that Trump should give, and he's not doing it. But you don't ignore that if you're a Republican.
Right. Look, there are things right now where reality is delivering your messages for you. You just have to kind of be in the constant state of acknowledgement, of connecting with people. That's what this cycle is going to be about, because the left is still trying to sell things. They're trying to sell current reality in the abstract. This reminding people of all the good things he's done in the economy. You're delusional if you believe that. And the reality is what's working against Biden and working for Trump. You have to go back and you have to every day acknowledge that reality, even though it's going to, again, a lot of the heavy lifting is already done for you. It still has to be acknowledged in your messaging, and you have to be on point. Here's the thing, too, is that while everyone is, I think a lot of people look back and say, oh, man, we just want to go back to the way it was before COVID. The reality is, I think that it sets in with people, yeah, that may not happen. So I really want to hear what's going to happen beyond, if you become President Trump, what are you going to do?
Well, you can see that they're concerned about the issues. That's why Biden is holding the press conference tomorrow to announce he's going to put an executive order to close the border once 4,000 cross. You shake your head going, it's you're in my opinion, I'm looking at this going, gold, Republicans, gold. This is gold, Jerry, gold. Because he's making the point that he's always had the ability to do it. And his closing the border, we're going to, is 4,000. And then you bring over and over again. You play Jay Johnson over and over and over and over again. And you have a commercial out tomorrow. You know, prices, I saw that, I'll find it here. Oh, I just popped into my head. I read an article yesterday that we're not going to see any, remember the forecast. There were some forecasters, economic forecasters, saying there might be 5 cuts this year or 6 cuts this year, to the Fed rate. And it's like, I think it was Bloomberg yesterday said there's not going to be any cuts at all.
No,
zero.
And we've been saying that. When they were saying in December, it could be as early as March and there will be a handful of cuts throughout the year. We're like, are you people, what's going on? Is everybody smoking weed?
And then this CNN yesterday, electricity, okay, because this is inflation, the costs. That it's not, the costs aren't going away before November.
No,
they're not.
No.
But here's this report from CNN. Here we go.
Well, many Americans may be getting hot under the collar when they open their electric bills this summer. The cost of keeping cool is expected to rise nearly 8% to $719 for the bills running June through September, according to the National Energy Assistance Directors Association. And some areas of the country, like the Pacific and the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the Midwest, may see even a higher increase, a higher share of increase. And that's up from $527 in 2019. The numbers have been rising steadily year to year. Utility prices skyrocketed in recent years.
There you go.
Yeah.
From 527 before COVID, over 30% increase in electricity prices over the last 5 years, and it's only going to go up and up and up and up. And then you've got, Schumer, we're going to go after the oil and gas CEOs. We're going to prosecute them.
Right.
For what?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Where's the charge?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an Alvin Bragg or a Mershon riding along with you, then I guess you could just make it up out of thin air. They did.
Well, this is the whole thing that we're not going to admit that inflation comes from government spending and debt.
Right.
We're just going to say it's the greed of the CEOs of whether it's a grocery stores, oil, whatever it is.
Right.
It's just greed, and the public already doesn't buy it. So they're talking about the issues, but they're not trying to solve any of them.
Remember when they brought the CEOs to the bank? The banks all lined up, and then they got to the one CEO. Well, tell us about these student loans that you guys had. We no longer make those student loans. You guys do. Those are government loans. Oops. Can we go to a break?
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll hear from the Border Patrol Vice President. I was going to play it now, but where he says exactly what we've said all along. And by the way, the Republicans should start using this. How long have we been saying this? That Biden and the Democrats cannot and will not solve the problems that we face because they created the problems.
Yep.
Here's the quote from the Border Patrol Union vice president. Quote, "It's quite a mess, and people need to understand that the mess was created by this administration," end of quote.
Yep.
Come on, let's get it together, Republicans. You've had some good ads, but let's get that as the theme. Democrats and the President Biden will not and cannot and will not solve the problems because they created them. They created the problem at the border.
And
they created the problem with inflation and why inflation is lasting so long.
And this move later today is going to be nothing. It's going to be nothing.
I know.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So, Biden to announce an executive order to close the border tomorrow after 4,000 people cross per day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is he going to be sitting there in his office with a counter? Is there going to be a tote board, a tally in the background or something? Is it we just reached 3,900?
He really thinks it's going to make a difference. This is on Fox News yesterday, the Border Patrol Union vice president.
It's quite a mess, and people need to understand that mess was created by this administration.
That's all I have to play.
There you go.
And again, if they're doing it, Republicans, come on, wake up, come on. Again, how many times have we said it?
Acknowledge reality.
Just get out there and just say, look, the Democrats and Biden can't solve the problem. And you could start tomorrow. Biden solving the problem is to allow 1.4 million people in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's his solving of the problem.
Right.
4,000 a day, then I'll shut it down, which means he believes he has the ability to shut it down with an executive order, which he hasn't done.
Right.
It really is amazing. I'm telling you, I just shake my head going, wow.
It's, It was a yawner. And by the way, the Democrats know it's a yawner. You know, he's not going to get his party on board with this. They're just going to kind of repeat the talking points for a minute. They're going to move on. This isn't even a Hail Mary. You know, with a Hail Mary, you got to throw the ball. This is nothing. This is nothing. And it's going to do nothing. And it's not going to move the needle. In fact, I wondered yesterday when the announcement came down, because, again, we've kind of been hearing, all right, something's coming down, and the talk was that they're floating this idea. I thought, does this have the potential to make it worse for him? Because I think it does. I think it has the potential to move the needle in the opposite direction politically in the polls. And the reason I say that is because everybody knows what the vice president of the Border Patrol Union is saying, what we've been saying. People know this in the back of their mind. They get it. And then it's like, okay, he's been saying he can't do anything about it. Now he's going to pretend to do something about it, which shows he has the power, but not the will to actually do something about it.
Well, I expect tomorrow the Republicans in Congress refuse to do anything about it, so I have decided to use an executive order to close the border.
Yeah, then he's going to try and do a one-handed push-up.
Let me ask you this. Is he going to say just close the border, or is he going to say after 4,000 cross? I have a plan to close the border. This executive order will close the border and just not say the 4,000. Because if he says it, mean, Karine Jean-Pierre is going to be pounded with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She's going to be pounded with,
Right.
well, 4,000. You're allowed. Why 4,000?
Yeah.
Because that's the question. You can't sell. It's the same thing. They believe in this day and age, they can be, well, look, on Israel, look, we only half hate Jews.
Yeah.
We're not fully anti-Semitic. We only are halfway anti-Semitic.
Right.
And on the border, we're going to close it, but only after we allow 1.4 million at the minimum across the border each and every year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you shake your head going, none of it's worked for them, and they keep doing the same thing. Oh,
Yeah.
Talk about nothing working. Now, look, I'm hesitant still a little bit to talk about the polls because what happened was so unprecedented, last Thursday with the entire bragg trial of Trump. And just being so unprecedented and being a new territory, you just wonder, okay, how will the polls react to it? Whether they're good or whether they're bad, for Trump, or
Yeah,
whether they're good or whether they're bad for Biden. The initial polls are out. Okay, polls are out right now. You have this was on Monday, the I&I tip poll. It was last week, Biden 42, Trump 40, now tied 41-41. General election, 38-38, Kennedy 10. Now, breaking down some of the states coming in, the what do you call it? The purple states.
Yeah, the battleground states.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I couldn't think of battleground.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking Battleship, that game. I don't know why. It's not Battleship states. It's like, I've got your battleship. But North Carolina, American Greatness NSOR poll came out. Head-to-head, which is dumb. We should stop doing the head-to-head because it's not head-to-head.
Right.
Trump +8 in North Carolina. That was yesterday. Everybody in it. Trump +12 in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is, and the one that got to me, and again, and then the Morning Consult poll, which was Trump 44. And Biden 43. Biden 43. Let me see how that relates to. Okay, I don't have one from last week on this one. Let me just look at this though, because this is interesting. You have Biden 2020 voters. 84% will vote for him again. 8% someone else. 4% don't know. Trump, 90% of Trump voters will vote for him again. 5% someone else. And so you have, let me see, for independents, 35% will vote for Trump, 34% for Biden, 21% someone else, 11% don't know. So there's where you have it there.
Yeah.
But still within the no major changes there, really. No major changes. It doesn't look like if you initially you haven't seen any wide swings at all. Now I'll tell you where you saw the wide swing here yesterday. Let me just get to it here. You and I have always followed the civics polling. Now we have questions about this, because at times the civics polling, there'll be some major events, and we're just like, it stayed like 13, 14 points for Biden or for disapproval for Biden for a while, and at times things would happen. We go, are they updating the poll? We'd always ask this.
It was like they turned it off and went home.
Right.
Yeah,
and so but yesterday it went up to 58% disapprove of, and this is let me see, these are likely voters for the civics, Joe Biden job approval. Excuse me, registered voters, not likely voters.
Okay.
And they've been doing this every single day, and they did this every single day of the Trump administration. And Trump was never as bad as Biden was. We've gone through, and you can go through the numbers yourself, just at civics.com. But disapproval 58, approval 34. The highest, tied for the highest disapproval rate, and the lowest approval rate he's ever had is 31%. This is at 34, but 24%. Let me see. The greatest he ever had was, let me just go through here, was 27% for, I think it was a couple of days back in July of, for about 3 days in July of 2022. And that was Roe v. Wade overturns, Biden tests positive for COVID. Let me just see. COVID deaths pass 1 million. And, so it was that summer. Now we're going into the summer here of the election, and this is really the second worst that he has been.
Yeah.
The second lowest, but the tied for the highest disapproval rate for yesterday, which is really interesting. It doesn't seem like there's been much movement at all. And it looks like the majority of the movement, and again, I say this with a lot of question marks, but because everything seems to be within the margin of error, except for the civics poll, that it looks like there's a slight bump for Trump.
Yeah,
and we'll see again. We'll see it afterwards.
I think that's probably to be expected, at least from a lot of us, that it would be at least a temporary bump for Trump. The question is it long-term motivation? Is it long-term, the article the other day, the never-Trumpers that are now voting for Trump, and the breakdown of the independent and how all that's going to go. This play for the Biden administration and Biden campaign later today on the border is all about independence. It's about some liberals, actually, in liberal cities that are getting tired of having to deal with it. But it's far too little, far too late.
Well, independence in the civics poll, and this may be, I don't know if this is 69% disapprove, 21% approve of Biden in the civics poll.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the highest that it's ever been. 68-19. It's the highest it's ever been. And we're at, wow, is this his highest? Wow, for independence in the civics poll, his highest disapproval numbers ever. 69. Before was 68%. And again, that goes back to the summer of 2022. 69% disapprove, 21% approve.
Wow.
So he's almost bottomed out on the approval rating, but he has bottomed out on the disapproval rating at 69%.
Right.
And again, so you look at, we don't take any poll. We look at momentum. And again, the civics poll can be an outlier.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we're not trying to, we've never tried to BS on the polls. And we never take one poll or two polls as gospel truth. We just take we take a look at it. For me, I'm very hesitant to give credibility to polls when you have such a huge event happen. And again, a president being, we believe the conviction, the charges are bogus completely, and we've gone through why. And Democrats really can't explain. Like I said, nobody can explain what the jury actually convicted him of, because nobody knows.
Right.
It was one of three things, and you don't need to be unanimous on it, which is one of the reasons it's going to be overturned.
Right.
But it's such a huge event, you would think. And the question is it a huge event? Or did the public already view this as just another bogus impeachment? And is it so insane? Because the majority, you cannot stop the coverage of it, even on the Sunday morning news shows. We're coming up going, look, this thing's going to be appealed. I look back at the last time you had something that would have been this serious, which probably would have been Watergate.
Yeah.
Now, so wait, we're talking 50 years ago, but you didn't have this backlash at all.
No.
You did not have this backlash against, that this is an unfair, prosecution, Nixon leaving office and all that. You didn't have, and I can't think of anything in my lifetime that comes close to that, because the impeachment of Clinton didn't come close to it.
No, and in both cases, the gauge is different, because the gauge now is active 24/7, and the gauge being social media. There is a response that is immediate and constant, and that response then is gauged, and politically you try and move in one direction or the other. But there's really no way around the reality of the entire sham that was this case. Democrats can't really do anything. I mean, what's his name? Dan Abrams. Yeah, but morally, Dan, your website isn't law and morals. It's law and crime, and there was no crime. And that's where they are. They can't do anything with it. It's why this thing is really kind of, they're not going to do this big long piece on it with a special editorial or something where they're just breaking it down. Here's the crimes, and here's what he did wrong and why it's against the law. No, none of them have it. And this is playing out over and over again. Now you see this desperate move from the Biden administration on the border. Now you're doing something about the border? Are you kidding me?
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mudflap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Talking about the Civics poll, which is a liberal poll.
Yeah,
pollster,
yeah, it is.
So people know.
Right.
But we've always we wondered at times, just when we see other polls moving and this one doesn't, but now it's moving. But here's something that's I find unique and nobody's talking about. You talk about the future of the Democratic Party, young people, and what young people think, for example, of Biden. Young males, 18 to 34, approve of Biden by 30 points, 59 to let me see, 29, 59-29. Sorry. Women, 18 to 34, only approve of him by 16 points. Not even reach his approval numbers with young women, 18 to 34, does not reach 50%, 47 to 31.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That really is amazing.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
Good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So I'm looking at this here. Oh, I got it. Is Judge Merchan crazy enough to give Trump jail time?
Yes. Why is that even a question? Yes. I don't know if that's going to happen. Is that a distinct possibility? Of course.
Jeffrey Blahar, National Review. Goes, I just don't know if it will happen. In theory, it should be inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Did I slur that?
No, I'm just doing the movie The Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
They repeat that.
I swear I did. Oh, the beer's gone from the refrigerator.
Inconceivable.
Somebody drank the beer in the refrigerator. Who was
It's
it?
been gone for weeks.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah, Alan and I polished that off a long time.
Somebody's emptying that refrigerator out there.
No, it is. It's the whole refrigerator's empty.
No. Somebody took the beer.
That's weird.
I didn't have any.
I didn't drink any of it.
Alan?
No, he didn't. He didn't drink
But
any
I
of it.
just don't know if it'll happen. He says, in theory, it should be inconceivable. This is a minor crime that was only dubiously a crime in the first place. The defendant is a first-time offender, and most important at all, no party was defrauded. Hence the need to gesture towards violations of election law, the public interest, without ever having to stipulate to them for the jury. So victimless was the crime of Trump paying off a hussy.
They really use the word hussy. That's funny.
Of a hussy, unless stretched into an election law matter that Bragg was patently unwilling to put before the jury, and thus only gestured towards, that amusingly enough, because remember last week when I said, when we're looking, I said, what's the tax violation?
Right.
I'm not making this up. All right?
Okay.
Everybody take a deep breath.
Everyone take a deep breath.
The tax violation is that because he committed that fraud, right, the business fraud,
Yep.
that Trump overpaid his taxes in New York.
Yeah.
And I saw that over the weekend, and I forgot about it. I forgot to bring it up on yesterday's show. That's one of the crimes.
Yeah.
That the fraud caused Trump to overpay his taxes, and therefore he should go to jail and be convicted.
Yeah.
Well, be convicted, then go to jail.
Yeah.
Well,
they don't
really matter.
They don't need to have it in order yet. Either way.
So the problem, Democrats, listen to this. The problem is the reason Trump has to be jailed is because he committed, according to Bragg, he committed business fraud in order to overpay his taxes. And because we all know Democrats want billionaires to pay less in taxes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You can't make this crap up. I almost said the other word. But amusingly enough, New York was actually overpaid in tax money as a result of how Trump classified and structured his hush money. He goes, that said, what if Judge Merchan surprises the sane legal world?
Mm.
What if he gives Trump actual years?
Mm.
We are being told by media commentators to consider it well within the realm of possibility. Norm Eisen, Brookings Institute pen pusher and CNN legal analyst, as well as a prosecutor on Trump's first impeachment trial, said the other day that Trump's 34 convictions made the case one of the biggest in state history, and that, quote, in the most serious financial business records case, a sentence of imprisonment is routinely imposed. And he said this is the most serious falsifying business records case in the history of New York.
Yeah.
I think Alan Bragg is going to ask for a sentence of incarceration, and I think Judge Merchan will very, very seriously consider it. Eisen is, of course, practicing a sleight of hand here in major falsifying business records convictions. The reason jail time is almost always handed out is because the cases almost always involve embezzlement from an employer or defrauding another party of their right to money, including not paying your taxes. But, of course, we expect a certain level of discourse from partisanly branded commentators, not honesty. I still don't think it seems plausible. You will notice that in my argument that Trump is unlikely to get jail time is based on his status as a nonviolent first-time offender of a victimless and uniquely Frankensteined together novel crime. I have avoided arguing that this is due to civic norms like it would look bad for Democrats to throw the opposition candidate for president in jail just before the election. So now it's time for me to point out that, yes, it would look obviously terrible. Yeah, God, it's pretty good writing. Obviously terrible for the New York court to put Donald Trump behind bars for a jumped-up misdemeanor offense. It usually results in fines precisely because the way the crimes are typically treated would make a disproportionate sentence here look nakedly political. Also, it would shake the country to its core during the late stages of a presidential election, which is no small thing. The logic here is overdetermined, as they say, although the court, in theory, is supposed to take no notice of this. And remember, the court should offer either a fine or a suspended sentence because that's the standard practice and no other reason. I do trust they understand the problematic optics here. I don't think they do.
No, I don't think they do, and or I don't think they care. Because if Merchan is in his mind convinced putting Trump behind bars after watching did they have fireworks on the air at MSNBC Thursday night? I think they did. I think they had a victory parade or something. And after watching that, obviously, he feels like a hero. He thought that this was, going to be this is going to be his heroic moment. I'm convinced that's his mindset. So on the sentencing, yeah, jail, 1 year, perfect. 1 year behind bars, and you put him in jail a week before the convention. It's no coincidence that the sentencing date is a week before the GOP convention. All that's by design. And I'm not convinced that there's going to be no jail time. I'll just put it that way. I think there is a distinct possibility Merchan looks at this as his opportunity to be the grand hero here. He helped Alvin Bragg through every step of the process during the trial. And now this is the closer.
As he writes here, if Trump gets actual jail time for this, and I tell you bluntly, the fix is in, and not just in, but meant as a symbolic boot stamping on the face of the American public.
Yeah.
Which is what I believe Mershon did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mershon was letting the American public know, I don't give a damn about the Constitution of the United States. I don't give a damn about the rights of a defendant at all.
Right.
In fact, as I said, this is the first court case I've ever seen in my life where it was obvious that the judge was more concerned with some type of perceived right of the prosecution with no right of the defendant, as I said the other day. It was just mind-boggling to watch all of this happening. And one of the purest examples is the gag order. A gag order normally means nobody can talk.
Right.
In this case, it was simply the defendant can't talk, but any witness for the prosecution can say whatever that they want publicly. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Absolutely bizarre, as Cohen was making money off of promoting what he was going to say about Trump.
Right.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling, the bias of this judge. So he already took the boot stamping on the American public that I don't give a damn.
Yeah, so, I mean, going in for the kill on the sentencing would be absolutely right in line.
Look, and understand, and I'm not at all, I'm looking at what the Democrats have done.
Right.
Two bogus impeachments. They didn't care. Think about this. They knew for the longest time. Think about it. Adam Schiff lied continually for months upon months upon months about what the intelligence said about Donald Trump.
Right.
And he's saying that he said over and over again that Trump, obviously the intelligence showed that Trump was colluding with the Russians. Completely false. It was Hillary Clinton colluding with the Russians, Iggy Danchenko, to create the dossier that was completely bogus, that the FBI bought into, that was completely bogus, to get a warrant, a secret warrant on someone. Nobody went to jail for that.
Right. Yep. It's backwards. Everything that we're looking at right now, when the sentencing came down last Thursday afternoon, it was like, yeah, well, of course. You know, all of us critical thinkers were saying, well, if he does this, it could be, or if the jury comes back with this, it could be this. And, you know, Mershon had an option based on the request of the defense. And no, this is the game.
And that's why the Democrats have no problem. The judge has no problem in letting the American public know, I'm a dirty judge.
Yeah.
I won't follow the Constitution. I will not protect a defendant's right.
Right. Yeah.
Bragg has no problem making up crimes against the opposition candidate.
Right.
Let's go to other topics. Biden to later today is going to say, I'm going to close the border after 1.4 million people cross it.
Yeah, right.
In a year, or 4,000 a day, which means he's always had the ability to do it. They obviously lied about the border. Everybody knew about it. They've lied. They continue to lie about inflation.
Yep.
Their anti-Semitism is so incredibly, obvious and blunt.
Mm-hmm.
The president think about this. The president just lied over the weekend that it was an Israeli plan, that basically the State Department admitted yesterday, well, no, we're basically agreeing with the Hamas plan.
Yeah.
They don't care. This is the party that comes after you and says, you're a hate monger if you won't agree that a man can be a woman because the man says so.
Right.
And they're okay with the intimidation and bullying and threatening of women athletes by men.
Yep.
And they're okay with men defining the definition of women.
Yep.
These people are insane. You go, I don't think Mershon would put Trump in jail. He might not, but don't be surprised if he does. They don't care.
No, they don't. They absolutely do not care. They absolutely do not care. And so I don't. It's believing that he's giving thought to this or no. His head is in one place. Get Trump.
And understand his mentality. He knew exactly what it is. He had no problem letting the American public know, I don't give a damn about this defendant's rights because it's Donald Trump.
Right.
I'm going to make it obvious to the American public that I am a rogue judge. I'm a crooked judge. I don't care about justice. I don't care about the Constitution. He made it blunt. It would follow that if he's following that logic, he'd simply go, Trump goes to jail.
Right. He had opportunity of all the filings from the defense. How many opportunities did he have? Well, he wasn't going to take any of those. It's going to be about getting Trump, including the sentencing.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so, again, I just thought it was interesting the way that he wrote the article. Is Judge Merchan crazy enough to give Trump jail time? Well, look, crazy defines the Democrats in 2024.
Well, I mean, you have to start with the first question. Was he crazy enough to hear this trial and let this trial go on? Yes. Did he have every opportunity to stop it? Did he have the power to stop it? Yes. It failed in its merits across the board, except for Merchan's willingness, insistence that it carried on.
The only thing, but I don't think this stops Democrats, the only thing would be the realization by the time we get to July 11th, if it's like, oh, my God, this has really helped Trump.
I guess.
But then again, if it helps Trump, then let's put him in jail.
Right. If you believe that's going to hurt him. Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, so Eric, we were just having the discussion going into the break because I had stated, I went, oh, wait a minute, though. Merchan might put Trump in jail for both reasons. If, for example, he sees that in the polling, the Republicans are getting killed,
or Democrats are, yeah.
No. The first scenario would be that Trump's getting killed and Republicans are getting killed because of the conviction. Well, then, hey, let's keep this going. We'll put him in jail. It'll get worse.
Then boom, yeah.
Right. If it's the opposite, as it seems it might be from the early polling, that Trump actually gains, well, then the last thing you want him out there is out there campaigning. So you're out of desperation, you put him in jail either way.
Well, and that's what you hit on in going into the break. I said, oh, let's revisit that part because if this is, I mean, look, this is definitely politically motivated. Let's not be silly. Of course it is. But as we get there to July 11th, if he sees that Trump is doing well, it may be the Hail Mary then. The sentencing may be the Hail Mary. Well, if we put him behind bars, that's going to, everybody's brain is going to, at least enough independence, maybe we'll look at that and say, okay, maybe I change my mind. It could be a desperate move to put him behind bars, could be the desperate move that he thinks he needs for Trump to lose the election. And that's the problem. They're because, all along, the analysis since Thursday, since the sentencing date was announced, has come from, well, what I've read, what the ones I pay attention to are mostly critical thinkers, right? Breaking it down. Okay, and he may be doing this and okay, but let's back it up and remind ourselves that's how we think.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not at all how he thinks, because you're still applying the logic pre-sentencing and pre-trial, because you have to look at what was available to him. If Mershon was considering this, how could you not see where this is going to go? I said to a buddy of mine Thursday when it broke, and I was at this event, Super Rigs at Texas Motor Speedway. I said, Doug, Trump's going to raise millions of dollars in the next few minutes. And boom, next story was Trump's website had crashed. And then the next story was he's raising millions and millions of dollars. You can see this coming. We knew this was going to happen. We knew, and I don't know how many people in the analysis leading up to the verdict use the word martyr. There's no way around that. So Mershon clearly didn't care about that. I know that he knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for whatever reason, he thought maybe martyr at first, but then that's going to fall off. And then, beyond that, I don't know. But he certainly knew what the immediate response is going to be. So he may do the calculations along the way, because now what he has available to him that he didn't pre-verdict is the numbers that we're seeing now. So whatever the fundraising is, wherever the polls are by July 11th, he'll have that available to him to consider what the political move is going to be here. And it is a political move. This has nothing to do with justice. Let's quit entertaining that silly idea. So then he's doing the calculations and says, oh, man, again, this is just one scenario. This is helping Trump. There's only one way to do this. Put him behind bars. Make him actually look like a criminal. But you make him look like a political prisoner, which are the words that the Trump campaign has been using since last Thursday. And so if he didn't see this, if he didn't see this coming or didn't care, then he may measure it and say, oh, wait, it did happen like they said, but I think this move, putting him behind bars, is going to squash that.
And who was the Democrat that jumped out immediately, like on Friday, and said, all right, if Trump goes to jail, we need to remove Secret Service protection. And then I forgot what Trump's son came out and said, oh, yeah, see, they want my father murdered in prison.
Right.
Well, the whole point is you would sit there. You can't even say that's over the top.
No.
You can't even say it's over the top. It's like they're so excited. We got him in prison. Well, that's not enough. He's got to take the Secret Service protection. Well, why would you do that? Because we hope he gets hurt or murdered in prison.
Right.
It's like, and they're just, the best point you made is we have to stop using our brains and our logic to analyze Democrats.
It does not apply.
It does not
at
apply.
all.
We can't sit there and say, well, what would he do logically? Well, you can't. You have to take yourself out. You have to take a hit of acid, and then you have to you have to say over and over again on the acid, a man can be a woman because a man says so, over and over again, to get yourself in that delusional mindset. Mm-hmm. And then you may be able to understand the Democrat mindset, which is pure rage and emotion over the possibility of losing power and control. And we were talking yesterday about, why this was happening. And I think it was Byron York. I think it was him who said that. He goes, you have to understand the mindset in early 2016. And you and I remember it. We remember And I believe it was Roy Teixeira who now is telling Democrats, you're doing everything wrong.
Yeah,
You've got to
right.
be more MAGA also.
Right,
He also.
right.
But he referenced him, Byron York, of saying he's the one that said that Democrats may never lose a presidential election again. You and I remember that because remember that week that happened, and then everybody was jumping on it, the media, because of Trump. He's so ridiculous as being a candidate. Republicans have lost it. Democrats may never, because of the demographic shift that they were saying, because now we've got this and where Hillary's showing in the numbers, and because of the Hispanic shift that they assumed was going to happen, and it went the opposite way.
Yeah.
We may never lose a presidential or national election again. And they were absolutely psyched out by it, and they viewed Trump as the person that made it so they couldn't get there. Yeah. I mean, it's delusional, but It doesn't matter. That's how they think. It's the same thing as when we said we could never understand why every position we took was a racist position.
Right.
Why? It's not what I'm talking about. It's not got nothing to do with racism. Why are you saying it's racist? Because as we now know, and every Democrat listening right now knows it, Democrats are the party of racism. They always have been.
Yep.
Slavery, Jim Crow, so many of them against the civil rights legislation of the 60s, and then identity politics today, where they judge people by groups and not individuals. Every Democrat listening right now knows about that. They understand it.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It's why you have Democrats that are anti-Semitic. It's why the administration consists of a bunch of Jew haters inside the administration.
Right.
It's the problem that they have. It's why Biden over the weekend lied that this was an Israeli plan, and the State Department had to admit yesterday, well, it's closer to Hamas's plan. It is Hamas's plan.
Exactly.
You know, this is what the Democratic Party has become, and we always wondered, why do they throw that at us? And then one day we realized, well, wait a minute. When you are the party of racism, have been the party of racism, that's where your history is, and the last 40 years you've been practicing identity politics, started with in the late 80s going after conservative blacks, going after Justice Thomas, going after, I remember whether it was Larry Elder or Armstrong Williams, remember when he was, I remember meeting him one time at one of the talk show conventions, and they were just being brutalized.
Yeah.
Who was the guy? Thomas Sowell was getting hit way back then. Though he was getting hit when the early 80s when he was doing those panels with Milton Friedman.
Mia Love when she was in office.
Mia Love.
Yeah.
I'm going way back to the beginning though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going back to the early 90s.
Yeah.
When it really started happening. What's his name? Williams, who used to fill in for Rush. I can't think of his name. I got my blank clear. They would get pounded as Uncle Tom's, you name it.
Yeah.
And that's when really, I believe, the modern identity politics movement started. And it's continued. And all they did was add Jews and then, let's add genocide to that. Let's add Jew hating and genocide to that also.
Yeah, right.
Is justifiable. It's not a huge leap when you judge people by groups and not individuals. And that's what we realized one day. We went, wait a minute. They're just projecting on us. They think this way.
Yeah.
They're the bigots. Yeah. They're the racists. They're the ones that are intolerant. They're the ones that say blacks must think this way, and whites obviously all think this way, which is where you got critical race theory.
Right.
The concept that all whites are culturally racist to the point that they can never let it go, and therefore society must be set up as considering the fact that all whites are racist.
Yeah. Right.
And so this is what you get. Think about the insanity of that, from being a racist, practicing identity politics in 2024. Think of the insanity of that, Eric. It's insane.
Yeah.
Think of the insanity of a man can be a woman because a man says so, and men should be able to play women's sports. And if women don't like it, we need to threaten them. We need to bully them. We need to threaten them. It's like, Where the hell does this come from? These concepts are insane in 2024, and they're mainstream of the Democratic Party, as is anti-Semitism, because it's where the Biden administration is right now. And the Biden administration, whether you like it or not, Biden is the leader of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
Tell us where we're wrong.
Setting the tone every day. Yep. And
so, yeah,
so
making the jump to Mershon.
Yeah, this is how they think, and applying any of our critical thinking. And, well, what he should consider is, well, no, actually, from the beginning, he should have looked at this heaping, steaming pile of nothing and said, get out of my courtroom with it.
Yeah.
If you find something where he broke the law, then come back.
But he was okay with making up a crime.
Yep.
And
he helped.
And denying a defendant their constitutional rights.
All along the way, Mershon helped Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg started all this. Mershon finished it.
Well, speaking of Alvin Bragg, did you see Kevin O'Leary? I got the audio cut here. Said history will look at this 5-10 years from now and say, how did Trump become president? Alvin Bragg was the kingmaker.
No.
It's like, will he fall in Democrat circles if Biden gets elected? Excuse me, if Trump gets elected.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You know, just 24 months ago, Trump had about a third of his party starting to think about swapping him out because he was controversial. And they thought maybe we need new leadership in the Republican Party. Then Bragg brings these charges, and immediately the entire party coalesces behind him. The country bifurcates. All of a sudden, and I know this sounds crazy, but I believe it to be true. History will look at this 5-10 years from now and say, how did Trump become president again? Alvin Bragg was the kingmaker. He did it for him. I know it sounds perverse, but that's what he did. And so that's called an unintended consequence. I don't know if he's happy about that, but that's how he'll be marked in history.
Kevin,
There's that possibility.
Oh, no, I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we talked about that. Even before the verdict, the toxicity of Trump had kind of toned down. It wasn't completely gone, and it still isn't with the far left. But in the mainstream, it really is. Alvin Bragg, so far, what he's accomplished is eliminating a great deal of that toxicity that surrounded Trump. You created the underdog all over again. And that's something that helped him win in 2016. He was the outsider coming in. He's been president before, and he's still now, and once again, the outsider and the underdog. And it's helping him. You came in with your power and thought you were going to squash him, and now you've turned him into a martyr. And how is that going to work for the legacy of Alvin Bragg? Probably not too well if Trump wins in a big way November 5th.
Well, when you think about it, racism is about rage and emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
The radical transgender movement is about rage and emotion.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Everything they talk about is about rage and emotion.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up here, we'll be talking about Fauci testifying yesterday. I do want to play this audio cut, though. Representative McCormick yesterday, who's a doctor and was a physician during COVID, made this statement because, well, I'm just going to play the statement. Here we go.
It's been insinuated that politicians, only bloggers, only conspiracy theorists are disagreeing with you. I want to point out that I'm probably the only member of Congress that actually treated patients during the pandemic from the very beginning to the very end of the pandemic, during night shifts in the ER. Thousands of patients during that time. And in 2020, I was censored. My medical license was threatened because I disagreed with bureaucrats. Literally taken off the internet as a person who was treating patients with leading-edge technologies, developing theories, but doing my very best, but being censored by the United States government for the first time, stepping in and taking the place of medical professionals as the experts in healthcare. Any dissent surrounding COVID-19 treatments, mask mandates, and any public policy surrounding the pandemic was immediately labeled as anti-science. I watched as public health officials and politicians told my patients what treatment options were best for them, regardless of their comorbidities or their medical history. Despite my education and my training and my experience, my opinions were relegated to conspiracy and misinformation by so-called healthcare experts who had never treated a patient throughout the entire pandemic.
That's Representative Rich McCormick, 6th District of Georgia, yesterday. So really interesting. I think there was a couple more doctors also that talked about it. And that's really what I got out of yesterday. The Democrats are saying the only ones criticizing Fauci are conspiracy theorists. And you even had one, I see if I can find the Democrat that was saying that there's no evidence that this came from a lab or could have been created from a lab. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
And especially after you saw the New York Times report yesterday. We'll get to that also on everything. Interesting that they came out the same day that Fauci testified.
I thought that was a very interesting coincidence, yeah. And it's everything coming together. Look, I think it's also the consensus of a public. We as humans assess risk every single day. We don't sit there and make an Excel spreadsheet with percentages, but we know it's dangerous to get behind the wheel of a car or do certain things. And we also know if a virus has been out there for any amount of time, we kind of start to gauge that as a public. We don't even have to be doctors. And now doctors telling the stories about how they almost lost their careers for disagreeing. Wow.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. I want to play the audio, and we're going to repeat some of the same stuff just over again in case you just came in, from Congressman and physician Dr. Richard McCormick, who went back and forth with Fauci yesterday. He was treating COVID patients.
Yeah.
And said, why was my license threatened? I actually treated thousands of patients.
Yeah.
And he said, he was threatened. He was censored. It was, why? I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
Why would that? And it's something that we asked about yesterday. If you didn't know, because Fauci is now playing the game that I didn't know this, and, that's what we knew at the time. Well, then why were you? And he can't say that he wasn't involved in censoring. The emails are there.
Yep.
We went through those emails a year or two ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time we went through obviously he was involved in wanting to censor it and only having, one point of view that was put out there. Now he's claiming, well, I didn't approve that. I didn't do this. Somebody else did it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, I didn't really mean what I said there. Yeah. What I meant was this. And it's like, sorry, none of it just doesn't hold any water. But I want to play this from McCormick yesterday.
It's been insinuated that politicians, only bloggers, only conspiracy theorists are disagreeing with you. I want to point out that I'm probably the only member of Congress that actually treated patients during the pandemic from the very beginning to the very end of the pandemic, during night shifts in the ER. Thousands of patients during that time. And in 2020, I was censored. My medical license was threatened because I disagreed with bureaucrats. Literally taken off the internet as a person who is treating patients with leading-edge technologies, developing theories, but doing my very best, but being censored by the United States government for the first time, stepping in and taking the place of medical professionals as the experts in healthcare. Any dissent surrounding COVID-19 treatments, mask mandates, and any public policy surrounding the pandemic was immediately labeled as anti-science. I watched as public health officials and politicians told my patients what treatment options were best for them, regardless of their comorbidities or their medical history. Despite my education and my training and my experience, my opinions were relegated to conspiracy and misinformation by so-called healthcare experts who had never treated a patient throughout the entire pandemic. This has been a black eye on the medicine and has highlighted why government should never insert itself in between patients and their healthcare providers. The American people deserve to make medical decisions through conversations with their physicians rather than politically motivated mandates. Dr. Fauci, did you ever treat a patient for COVID during the pandemic?
I was part of a team that was at the NIH that took care. We didn't take care of many of them.
Okay, so not hands-on. Got it. Thank you. Why would I be criticized by a bureaucrat for doing my very best as a healthcare? This is a rhetorical question. But why? Why would the government, who's never treated a patient for COVID, you can read all the things you want, but you're not there. You're not seeing patients. You're not watching people die, intubating patients right there with that disease in your face, watching it happen, watching the development of this disease and actually learning from it. But I'm being told by bureaucrats what's right and wrong. And what's funny is everything I was censored on, I was proven to be right. Pretty crazy, isn't it? You said in an interview that you gave as part of an audiobook written by Michael Spector that you believed an institutional should make it hard for people to live their lives so they'd feel pressured to get vaccinated. Could we run the audio clip on that, please?
You think can be done about it. I have to say that I don't see a big solution other than some sort of mandatory vaccination. I know federal officials don't like to use that term.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bull and they get vaccinated.
Thank you. Are all objections to COVID vaccinations ideological, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not, and
Thank
that's
you.
not what I was referring to.
Well, it very much was in context. And I take great offense to this. Miss Allison Williams testified before this committee about losing her job because she sought an exemption for ESPN's vaccine mandate, which came from recommendations from bureaucrats like yourself. She and her husband were actively working with a fertility expert, a physician, on how to get pregnant, and agreed with the premise that she was young, healthy, wanted to get pregnant, and shouldn't get the vaccination for medical purposes. But she was fired because you made it hard, just like you said in your statement, because you didn't want to make sure that the ideological...
All right, there you go. That's part of it, but the cursing continues in there. So,
yeah, it's very clear where they were on this. We all knew it at the time. And if you spoke out, then you were going to lose your presence on social media. If you were a doctor that spoke out, then you were under the threat of losing your medical license. And if, as they pointed out in the audio clip, well, if you weren't going to get in line, you could lose your job. And that's what it came down to. They knew they could get control of people, controlling people's behavior under the guise of saving the world from a pandemic. They've been trying this with climate change for a long time. But they had something here that was real. And then let's just make it as scary as we can make it, even when we know it's not as scary. Let's deny the origins of it and point to something else. and let's carry this whole thing on as if we can't control it. The only thing we can do is control the behavior of people.
I'm going to play some clips here from Michael Schellenberger. From people know him from he's done everything from talk about homelessness. He was part of the Twitter files. He has been eviscerated by Democrats. He's a Democrat, lifelong Democrat, by the way. And he has talked about homelessness, about COVID. What else has he talked? Oh, climate change.
Yeah.
And just disagrees with everywhere where the Democrats are going. And he is a Democrat, and he's considered now an independent journalist. And here's what he had to say, analyzing what went on. And we'll play it in a number of different cuts over the next little bit. Okay, but here he is. Okay.
Hey, everybody. It's Michael Schellenberger for Public. Today, Dr. Anthony Fauci testified to Congress about COVID vaccines and COVID's origins.
Did the COVID vaccine stop transmission of the virus?
That is a complicated issue because in the beginning, the first iteration of the vaccines did have an effect, not 100%, not a high effect. They did prevent infection and subsequently, obviously, transmission. However, it's important to point out something that we did not know early on that became evident as the months went by, is that the durability of protection against infection and hence transmission was relatively limited.
But there was never definitive evidence that the vaccines would, in fact, prevent transmission. In fact, in December 2020, the FDA determined that the, quote, data are not available to make a determination about how long the vaccine will provide protection, nor is there evidence that the vaccine prevents the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 from person to person. The CDC agreed in 2020 and 2021, stating that protection would wear off, that the evidence was unclear, and that the data were limited. When Fauci said in May 2021 that a vaccinated person would become a, quote, dead end to the virus, he was repeating a political talking point, not accurately representing the science.
There you go. Just that's one part of it. Let's continue here. Because that's the whole point. You've got to do it, but you've got to do it sanely. My problem is, look, I love Jim Jordan, but at times he gets manic and gets off the topic. I like Schellenberger because he just goes point by point by point. Now, Schellenberger's not in Congress, but the fact is he goes point by point by point by point by point. And if you wish to destroy the arguments or you wish to bring up the inaccuracies or lies of these people, you have to go point by point by point, and you can't get distracted by flashy things.
Right.
Here's more from Schellenberger.
Claiming vaccination would prevent spread was a strategy to increase vaccine uptake, particularly among young, healthy people who were not vulnerable to severe COVID outcomes. The science had not been settled, but rather Fauci and other public health leaders chose to espouse a noble lie to encourage vaccination. Now, to his credit, Fauci testified before Congress today and sat for many hours of a transcribed interview. But Fauci also implied that investigating his role put him at risk.
Every time someone gets up and says, I'm responsible for the death of people throughout the world, the death threats go up.
We unreservedly condemn any threats Fauci and his family may have received. It is illegal to threaten people with death or physical violence, as it should be. At the same time, we must be free to discuss Fauci's role in funding the laboratory research to make coronaviruses more infectious, otherwise known as gain-of-function research, without fear of being accused of inciting violence against Fauci or his family. It would be an abuse of power to suggest that any effort to hold Fauci accountable is equivalent to threatening him or his family. And yet many Democrats repeatedly suggested that there was something sinister and dangerous even about criticisms of Fauci for his role in shaping the U.S. response to the pandemic, as well as his role advocating for and funding the kinds of biomedical research that may have caused it in the first place.
He did not fund research to create the COVID-19 pandemic. He did not lie to Congress about gain-of-function research in Wuhan. And he did not organize a lab leak suppression campaign Today,
the evidence to date points to COVID-19 having originated from an animal market in China. This committee should be doing more to fight for those answers, but instead has wasted significant time and taxpayer money fueling conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory after another get debunked.
But it is not a conspiracy theory. A few hours before Fauci testified, the New York Times itself, which is the most important newspaper for Democrats, published a complete and graphics-heavy case for the lab leak theory of COVID-19's origin. Quote, a growing volume of evidence gleaned from public records released under the Freedom of Information Act, digital sleuthing through online databases, scientific papers analyzing the virus and its spread, and leaks from within the U.S. government suggests that the pandemic most likely occurred because a virus escaped from a research lab in Wuhan, wrote Alina Chan, who is the co-author of the 2021 book Viral with Matt Ridley. In today's hearing, Fauci insisted that he did not fund risky gain-of-function research in Wuhan. The research his agency funded, Fauci claimed, was not technically gain-of-function research under the regulatory definition set by something called the Guidelines on Potential Pandemic Pathogens Care and Oversight, otherwise known as P3CO.
Dr. Fauci.
We'll get to that coming up here. But we've gone through that already. They went through that with Rand Paul years ago.
Right.
On that. So we'll get to that coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, more from Michael Schellenberger as he gets into the whole thing where Fauci said he said it again, they did not fund gain-of-function research. Yeah. And exactly what we had said 2-3 years ago after the whole Rand Paul back and forth. And we said, wait a minute here. He's just playing word games here. Right. Because the question should be, and we said Rand Paul should not say gain-of-function. Did American taxpayer dollars go to enhance these viruses or juice up these viruses so they would, become more lethal? Right. That they're the ability to jump from human to human or whatever. Did you enhance the virus? That's what we wish to know. And Schellenberger, will have this following the top of the hour, comes to the same conclusion again with all of the research that has been done out there. We knew it 2-3 years ago. I can't remember when the back and forth started happening when, as you said just during our break here, Fauci was trying to, play word games or, I got you on this.
Outsmart Rand Paul is what he was trying to do.
I can outsmart you by just denying gain of instead of getting to, that's like, what's the definition of murder versus manslaughter?
Right.
Did you kill the person?
Right. And it's that simple. Did any taxpayer money go to the enhancement of this virus in that lab?
And you'll hear Schellenberger talk about that coming up on the top of the hour.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, want to finish here with some of the analysis from Michael Schellenberger on Fauci's testimony yesterday. This on the whole gain-of-function research. And we said, I can't remember when it was. When did him and Fauci really get into the gain-of-function the first time? Was that two
years ago,
3 years ago?
Like was it a decade ago?
I know.
So much has happened.
Yeah. And so to hear, Schellenberger tear it apart, with the facts today, with all the different facts, is really almost like listening to classic rock radio.
Yeah,
it's like,
it is.
Oh, this is another oldie but goodie. No, but it's important because the Democrats are out there today. The Democrats were sounding like the Democrats of 2020.
Yeah.
It's all conspiracy. Great Barrington Declaration, all conspiracy theories, everything else. As we played earlier, Congressman Richard McCormick, who's a doctor and treated these patients, said, I was censored. I was censored.
Yeah.
My doctor's license was threatened.
Right.
I was an emergency room doctor. I was treating these patients and had things to say about it from a medical perspective, and I was censored.
Yep.
And he said, and everything that I was censored on, every single thing, I was right.
Yep.
And the fact is, the Democrats don't see any problem with it. It's almost as if they're looking at it from 2020 eyes or whatever, saying, well, anything that disagrees with the official narrative from the government is a conspiracy theory. Well, they're not conspiracy. And they're still saying the same thing, that all the criticism of Fauci yesterday was conspiracy theory and lies, and they wish to worship a felon instead of acknowledging the greatness of Fauci. And I'm like, really? You're trying to say that? I swear, I had the same thing as Biden today trying to sell to the American public. The Republicans wouldn't do anything about the border, so I am. I'm only going to allow 4,000 people to cross a day, 1.4 million a year, and then we shut down the border. And as the Border Patrol Union vice president said yesterday, excuse me, you caused this. You caused all of it.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing going, really? You're trying to sell that now? It's amazing. But let's get to Schellenberger here as he starts talking about gain of function. And it almost mirrors the answer that we had a couple of years ago, doesn't it, really? Because we've heard it already.
It's exactly what we were talking about then, yeah.
And for people that don't know Michael Schellenberger was part of the Twitter files.
Right.
With Barry Weiss. He testified before Congress on what Twitter was doing to censor. He is now an enemy of the Democrats, and he is a lifelong Democrat who won't vote for Trump.
Right.
I don't know if he'll vote for Biden, but he won't vote for Trump. But he's part of the new wave of, I think, if you want to call them independent journalists out there that say we need to get back to journalism.
Right.
And so by the way, if you ever watch him talk about homelessness, talk about climate change, talk about this, they're all conservative opinions.
He breaks it down in a critical, like a critical thinker, because
Right.
I believe that he is. And I'm with you on that. I've seen him talk about homelessness a number of times and talk about possible solutions and what he believes the problems are and how it's been handled wrong and all these things. And then he offers, okay, here's possible solutions. He lays them out. And he sounds like a critical thinker.
And he's involved in organizations to help get people off the street.
Yeah.
But it's like
he's
what the left is doing is wrong.
Right.
And so let's hear him on gain of function.
In today's hearing, Fauci insisted that he did not fund risky gain of function research in Wuhan. The research his agency funded, Fauci claimed, was not technically gain of function research under the regulatory definition set by something called the Guidelines on Potential Pandemic Pathogens Care and Oversight, otherwise known as P3CO.
Dr. Fauci, according to the regulatory definitions, for example, in P3CO, that NIH applied to proposed research, did NIH ever fund gain of function research in Wuhan, China?
As you said, Congressman Ruiz, according to the regulatory and operative definition of P3CO, the NIH did not fund gain of function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
But Fauci and Francis Collins, the former head of the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, spent years seeking to weaken oversight of just such research. In 2011, after the NIH Biosecurity Board unanimously recommended that certain dangerous gain of function bird flu research not be published, Fauci and Collins published an opinion piece called A Flu Virus Risk Worth Taking in the Washington Post. it argued that the benefits of this research outweighed the potential for a pandemic. The following year, 2012, NIH's Biosecurity Board signed non-disclosure agreements and met with Fauci and Collins. Apparently under pressure from the two men, the board revised its previous recommendation and urged the publishing of this risky bird flu research. According to Fauci and Democrats, NIH's grant to EcoHealth Alliance did not fall under the P3CO guidelines because it was not anticipated to increase pathogens' nature to humans. But in emails, NIH staff expressed grave concerns about EcoHealth's work creating hybrid chimera viruses in order to increase their infectiousness. And then NIH staff pointed out that there was a moratorium placed on that research in 2014. Peter Daszak, the president of EcoHealth, persuaded NIH staff to concede to a research threshold, saying that they would halt their research if chimeras had enhanced viral growth 10 times more than that of the original viruses. After reaching an agreement with NIH, Daszak specifically referred to this work as gain-of-function research, writing, "This is terrific. We're happy to hear that our gain-of-function research funding pause has been lifted. Cheers, Peter." Then, in 2018, EcoHealth went on to seemingly violate its agreement by producing a chimeric virus with a viral load 10,000 times greater than the original virus. As such, Fauci and his colleagues and the Democrats were playing word games, redefining what they mean by gain-of-function research in ways that allow them to deny responsibility. In his testimony, Fauci misrepresented the scientific possibility that NIH funding is associated with the COVID-19 outbreak, as well as his role in the Proximal Origins paper, which infamously and misleadingly claimed that our analyses clearly show that SARS-CoV-2 is not a laboratory construct or purposely manipulated virus. But consider how in 2018, EcoHealth applied for a grant from the Defense Department's research lab for a project called Diffuse, which would involve Xi Jinping's group at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and Ralph Barick's group at the University of North Carolina. Documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act reveal that the features of the COVID-19 virus closely resemble the work described in EcoHealth Alliance's proposal. On February 1st, 2020, Fauci and Collins held a meeting called the Coronavirus Sequence Comparison with other scientists to compare the spike proteins of the COVID-19 virus and its closest genetic relative, which the NIH-funded Wuhan lab had discovered. The meeting would result in the Proximal Origin paper. In the hearing, Fauci downplayed his role in this.
On the drafting and publication of the Proximal Origin paper, did Dr. Anderson send you drafts to review?
He sent drafts, but I'm going to jump ahead of you, if I might, dribble around. I did not edit it. It was mentioned by a few of the congressmen. I did not edit the paper.
While it may be true that Fauci did not edit the Proximal Origin paper, lead author Christian Anderson said he prompted it and that the authors sent him a final draft for approval. In their private exchanges, the authors repeatedly refer to Collins and Fauci as the Bethesda Boys. Their offices were located in Bethesda, Maryland. The Bethesda Boys appear to have directed at least some of the paper's content. After Anderson suggested that a first draft should be sent up the chain, Fauci and Collins voiced concern that culturing or serial passaging, which is a process through which the virus can be made more infectious to humans, was still included as a possible origin. Jeremy Farrar, the head of Wellcome Trust, then pressured the authors to remove it. Shortly after publishing the preprint, Holmes told Anderson, "Sorry the last bit had to be done without you, pressure from on high." Fauci would go on to cite the paper as objective evidence from independent scientists. All of this, and yet throughout the Oversight Committee's hearing, Democrats not only refused to provide oversight, they criticized their colleagues who attempted to provide it.
I'm sorry for the personal attacks you have received and may have to deal with today.
I'm sorry you have to continue going on with these attacks. Do you think the American public should listen to America's brightest and best doctors and scientists, or instead listen to podcasters, conspiracy theorists, and unhinged Facebook memes?
Since World War II, Democrats, liberals, and progressives have criticized their political enemies as overly deferent to authority. But today, at the hearing with Fauci and other hearings where mainstream science is questioned, they criticize their enemies for not being sufficiently deferent. What changed?
There you go. That's just part of it. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on and on. But as you can see, exactly what we said a few years ago is exactly what Fauci did. And as you said, forget about saying whether it's gain of function research.
Let's set aside the terminology of what it's officially called, or what you called it, or who coined whatever phrase. Was there taxpayer money going to the enhancement of this virus?
Yes.
To make it more viral more dangerous, more virulent in any way?
Yes.
The answer
is yes.
Is yes. And
by the way, when you don't tell, if you're trying to sidestep it or play these little games, you're lying.
You're lying.
Fauci is lying.
Yes. And that, should have been the approach. I mean, we understand. I think Rand Paul did an excellent job. I do. But that's the way I would have handled that questioning, because you could see that Fauci in that moment still had his he still had his power. He still had his arrogance, and he was defiant in every way. He thought he was king of the world, and you weren't going to outsmart him. And that's the way he treated Rand Paul. And Rand Paul, of course, Fauci was helped by the fact that the liberals on Capitol Hill and also in liberal media were branding Rand Paul as a conspiracy theorist at the time. And all that's over. Reality is here. Rand Paul was right.
Well,
many of us were right.
It's over in the public. It's not over with the Democrats. The Democrats are still mainstreaming that Fauci was completely right, and any criticism of any criticism of the lies and the misinformation, disinformation given by the government is simply a conspiracy theory from Republicans.
Yep. Yeah.
They're still sticking to that when we know what the facts are.
Yep. And this is, again, typical of the arrogance that runs throughout bureaucrats and liberals on Capitol Hill.
But if you don't want to get to the truth of COVID, then you really don't give a damn about American lives.
No. If he did.
No, I'm talking about him and the Democrats speaking today, still not wanting to get to the bottom of it. Fauci doesn't want to get to the bottom of it. Democrats don't want to get down to the bottom of it, which means they don't give a damn about the lives that were lost.
No, if he did, then that would have been very clear from the beginning.
Yep.
We would have seen a very different set of behaviors by him and all those involved. But no, this is about control. Right. How can we control people?
Right. I'm specifically talking about the Democrat Congress, though, not Fauci. I'm talking about today, by the way that they answered it, by calling what we know now is the truth, still conspiracy theories and lies, shows that the Democrats in Congress don't give a damn about American lives.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. They don't. And Fauci never did.
No. Nope.
Never did.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And look, eventually, in history, what's going to happen to Fauci, I don't know. But what you wanted to get to is the truth of what happened. And we know that the American taxpayer money was involved in helping to enhance the virus. We know that. Yeah. And that should have been the question asked. And they're playing, as Michael Schellenberger says, Fauci and the Democrats playing games with it. My question is, why have the Democrats and the administration never wanted to get to the truth of where the virus came from? Why is that?
Right.
I asked that to any Democrat out there. And why do they continue lying now when they say that anybody who is criticizing Fauci is just bloggers, conspiracy theorists? Right. That's not true. And we don't. What are the Democrats afraid of? Why are the Democrats, and I'm asking this to Democrats, if you're a Democrat voter, why are the Democrats so afraid for the public to know the truth of what happened with the government during COVID?
Right.
And look, it went from the Trump administration throughout. I don't care. I just want to get to the truth so we don't do this again in the future.
That was the whole point of getting to the bottom of what caused it. What started all this? The truth is the truth. I can't change what already happened.
Right.
I wasn't involved. So we can start there.
Why do the Democrats...
I don't have to take any ownership in what anybody else does, whether they're on my side politically or not. And I don't know why Democrats have to do the whole dance of building the wall around Fauci and the whole thing all over again.
Yeah. And to the Democrat voters that are listening, we know you listen to the show. Why don't Democrats wish to get to the truth about COVID and the American government's involvement in it?
Right.
Why?
Right. Why? Why not? Why would you not come out and say, hey, we need to know exactly how this went down. We need to know if it's going on right now, the same kind of behavior.
Why do Democrats keep wanting to enable the lies of Fauci? Why do Democrats say that any disagreement with Fauci is in essence threatening him? Schellenberger brought that up.
Yeah, right.
Because that question's asked. Well, because of your criticism, when you get criticism, you get death threats? Yes.
Right.
Which means then don't criticize him. Well, no. Death threats are wrong. Any type of threat is wrong. It doesn't mean you stop asking questions. That's what Democrats are doing. Why do Democrats, I'm asking this to Democratic voters, why do Democrats want to censor the truth about COVID? I don't know any Republicans. I'm not trying to censor anything. You're not.
No.
I don't know who's to blame for every single thing that happens. Some of the things may have happened during the Trump administration.
In this case, the truth is imperative for one reason. To do everything we can to make sure nothing like this ever happens again.
Yeah. Very simple.
What already happened, happened. Whoever's responsible is responsible.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we never got a chance to talk about this, and we have to here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not a comedy bit. I want to make this clear, Eric. This is not a comedy bit.
It might be funny, but it's not a comedy bit. Okay.
The Justice Department cannot release audio from President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur due to the threat of potential deep fakes, the DOJ argued in a Friday court filing. The filing came as part of a legal challenge against Biden's efforts to exercise executive privilege over the recording to keep it from the public. The Department of Justice acknowledged in its Friday filing that there is already enough public audio available to create AI deepfakes of both Biden and her, but it said releasing the true recording would make it more difficult to disprove any false versions. The passage of time and advancements in audio, artificial intelligence, and deepfake technologies only amplify concerns about malicious manipulation of audio files. If the audio recording is released here, it is easy to foresee that it would be improperly altered and that the altered file could be passed off as the authentic recording and widely distributed, the department wrote. Well, in that case, don't let Biden ever speak.
I don't think they should let him in front of a camera or a microphone ever again.
I mean, this is so bogus. Associate Deputy Attorney General Bradley Weinsheimer wrote in a filing that releasing the tape would make it far more likely that malicious actors could pass off a deep fake as the authentic recording.
Did you say his last name is Weisenheimer? No?
Weinsheimer.
Okay.
Weinsheimer.
My dad used to call me Weisenheimer.
Yes.
When I was being a smart aleck.
Yeah, Weisenheimer.
Yeah, Weisenheimer. Yeah. Yeah. So what they're afraid of is someone could lie about Biden's lies. They could create fake lies about the real lies. And how would we know the difference between the fake lies and the real lies?
Well,
that is a problem.
Well, the thing is, once they release the audio, you have an official place to see the audio, and the media will play the audio, and then we'll have the official audio.
Right.
To sit there and say, well, but somebody will deep fake. Well, of course, there's going to be a parody of it. Somebody's going to do that.
I mean, I was planning on it.
But the fact is, really, for most of Biden's stuff, you don't need to ever do any type of AI to make it sound worse. You really don't.
You don't.
But the fact is, then you don't release anything. Biden should never talk because anything Biden says, AI could be used to deep fake.
Yes.
I mean, it is just the. Let's see. Do I have it here? I want to go to. I think I've Jonathan Turley here commenting on that on Fox News.
All right.
They're just like, you got to be kidding me. Here we go.
It really does. I mean, part of the reason why that's so remarkable is that it is so illogical. It is neither legally nor practical.
Okay, we've got some problems here, so take it down here. I don't know where the extra audio is coming in from. We've got extra audio coming in from somewhere. Hang on, I think I have it corrected here.
Okay.
Oh, we had just that extra audio. Okay, here we go. All right, we'll do it again.
The reason why that's so remarkable is that it is so illogical. It is neither legally nor practically sensible to make that argument. The fact is that if you release the audio tape, it's going to make it easier to refute any deep fake version. I mean, right now, AI could produce that because you have the transcript. And part of the problem for the Department of Justice is that their position has never made any sense. You release the transcript as unprivileged, but you're claiming the audio version is privileged, as if this is sort of a Voldemortian, he who shall not be heard type of candidate. The impression is that they're not worried about a false version of the audio tape. They're worried about the real audio tape being heard before the election. It's a transparent effort to get the court to hold the audio tape, or at least to keep it in litigation until the people have voted.
And to your point in your piece on your blog, I should say, you said consider the implications of the argument for a second. It would mean that any visual or audio recording of the president could be withheld due to the danger of digital or other manipulation. It would eviscerate any existing limits on privilege assertions. I want to move on to the Trump.
Okay, but that was just, it's hilarious. So when you think about it,
yeah,
yeah,
it's just stupid. But what's interesting here is that this steps away from the whole privilege thing. When they're saying executive privilege thing, when they're saying, but no, there could be some deep fakes.
No, that's a good point.
Well, if you are going to stay on the executive privilege thing, you stay on that and say, and because that would if you believe that to be true, if it were true, then of course it would be over. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about it. But if you were going to, that was their first attempt, and now they're worried. Oh well, somebody could do a deep fake.
Well, it falls apart though. The reason I know why they're doing it. The reason they came up with this, the dumbest the dumbest reason ever, is because they know they can't justify executive privilege just on executive privilege.
Right.
Because you can't release the transcript of something and not release the actual audio tape.
Right.
Because the audio tape is the reality of what was first done. That's the first copy.
Yes.
So to sit there and say, well, a transcript, which doesn't give you a lot of the context that the actual audio did, which is what they recorded, to say the transcript can be released, but there's executive privilege over the audio, that's not going to pass muster.
No.
So they had to do something else. So they come up with this, the dumbest thing ever, because it's the opposite's true. If you release the audio, then it's harder to make a deep fake. If not, you can have some, organization come out, anti-Biden organization, and say, our sources have given us the tape, and it's all AI off the transcript, and you completely and totally exaggerate it. Well, how can you prove it's not true? You can't.
You can't. You can't.
You can only prove it's not true if you have the original audio that's been released and official news agencies have it, and therefore that can be shown as being false.
Right. This is so
they're
stupid.
They are so. It just.
It really is like dealing with children.
Yeah, it is.
Because you have to wonder who's making these calls. Hey, the executive privilege thing didn't work. What do we do now?
Is Karine Jean-Pierre she the head of everything?
She might. She might be. She might have gotten the ultimate promotion because nobody else wants it. Hey, don't put this on me. No way. Okay, how about this?
The thing is, it would be damaging, but I think people already have processed what what the problems Biden has. I don't think it's do or die. I do think that when you see that people have already, how do you say it? They've already digested who Biden is.
Yeah.
You can't get worried. But you know why you don't need AI? Because I guarantee you, if somebody had not seen Biden walk away when he was asked the question from the reporter
the other day
about Trump saying he's a political prisoner, and Biden walked away and turned around and looked at the camera
with that weird smile.
He looked like he was that could have been a possession movie that he's possessed, because he turned around with that evil smile. He was Dr. Evil at that moment. Now, within hours, the Trump campaign had the music behind him when he turns, and they probably, I don't know, I couldn't tell. I don't think they did anything in the commercial. I think they just let it go because it was so creepy on its own when he turned, and then he just gives that smirk smile like, you're damn right we set him up, right?
Yeah.
That's what he got out of it.
Biden himself is a deep fake. So worrying about somebody doing a deep fake of him, you should worry about somebody making him look like a real person.
Oh, my gosh. We're doomed, but, man, there's humor in all of this.
It's just so weird. I know. Weird. Remember when Gerald Ford, the only thing they had on him was he was a bit clumsy, right? The whole Chevy Chase thing, which wasn't really an impression as much as it was, I don't know what it was. And they didn't really, it's, if you were to do a caricature, it wouldn't be near as bizarre. There's no one creative enough to make it as bizarre as Biden.
No, that's a great point. You can't you
just can't.
You can't deep fake
You
him.
can't.
As you said,
He's a deep fake himself. He's already a deep fake.
That Weisenheimer. Imagine being this tool of the Department of Justice.
Oh my gosh.
All right, you need to come up with an excuse of why it's just not about the executive privilege, because that's not selling. So we at the Department of Justice, we need to pretend that we're not political by putting out a statement that not one damn person on the planet will believe.
Deep
and
fake.
you're the sucker,
Yeah.
Weisenheimer.
Right.
Weisenheimer, you're the one that gets to do it.
Right. Yeah, this is you. Go ahead. Go ahead. This is your spotlight. Go ahead.
You're all your degrees and your law enforcement experience and everything else.
Yep.
We want you to make the dumbest excuse ever. We need you to make a dog ate my homework
Yeah.
excuse for the Department of Justice that nobody will buy and make you look like the biggest ass on the planet.
Yeah, you really are going to lose all credibility. Go ahead. It's your turn. Go ahead.
I know.
Short straw. Weisenheimer.
Yeah, who got Weisenheimer?
All right. It's you, buddy. Get out there. You want me to say this? It could end up being a deep fake? Yep.
All my years in law enforcement for this?
Yeah.
This is what I have to do? This is what people will remember me for?
Well, think about it. Going back to the Danchenko thing of making up, the drunk fest.
Yeah.
Of making up the
dossier.
The entire salacious dossier. It has to be a nightly drunk fest of coming up with stuff like this. And then at the end, it's like, okay, sorry, dude.
Hey, Weisenheimer,
you got the short straw. Get out there, man. That's what we wrote. It doesn't matter that we're sober now. That's what we wrote last night, and you got to go out there with it. You got to go out there with it. It's you. Go.
You know what it reminds me of?
Hmm?
The Michael Moore movie. The Canadian Bacon.
Yeah.
Remember when they go in deep into the CIA to get a guy to come up with some analysis? That guy who's been sitting in the bowels of the CIA in his little corner office, who's all ticked off, and he's a complete total conspiracy theorist. They go, you got to come up with an idea. You got to come up with and it's the guy that approaches him is Alan Alda's national security advisor, who was the guy with what was it, the albino in Wayne's World 2?
Oh, yeah.
Remember to get the permit?
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
I can't think of his name. Oh, he's a famous comedian. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't think of his name. Yeah, I can picture his face. I can't think of his name.
Think of his name. He's a famous comedian.
Yeah, but
he does great. But he reminds me of the guy they went to come up with you need to come up with an idea of how we can legitimately attack Canada. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Now we could. They're denying free speech.
Well, you start with executive privilege, right? Man, sounds so official. I mean, you're hey, executive privilege. We're going to hold the line. Executive privilege. And then next thing, well, there could be deep fakes. It's like they're giving up. It seriously is like they're giving up.
Kevin Pollak, I think it is.
Is it Kevin Pollak?
That's who I'm thinking.
Okay.
The guy.
All right. Yeah.
I think that's who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Pollak.
Okay.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Now he wasn't the guy. He was Alan Alda's national security advisor. He wasn't the guy. The other guy, I can't think of the name of it. Who came up with it? The other actor. He's not as well known. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Seriously, though, the guy, Weisenheimer, whatever his name is, the guy who was, was the one who responded.
Yeah,
that they can't release the audio of Biden and the special counsel her.
Then you can't release. There can't be any audio or video ever again
of anything. No, you can't release anything of Biden because it could all be manipulated. But I mean, what a tool! I mean, seriously, They throw this one. They throw you under the bus. You're the one that's got to throw that one out.
Right.
I swear to you. Brad Sullivan was the name of the actor that played in Canadian Bacon.
Brad Sullivan. Yes.
That's when I started thinking of tools that are used in government to do things that aren't believable.
Yeah.
And they throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
But just amazing.
Yeah.
That's
I
amazing.
can't imagine.
Neither can I.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.